Hello everyone, my name is El Parnaso and for today's video we're gonna learn important history because today I'm going to answer the question of why Raye has 1500 attack and 1500 defense. Now, in order to answer that question first, we need to remember some things about the Sky Striker cards, especially the first one that came out, these three ones. Obviously, the Sky Striker was a very reliable one focus monster deck and reliable on heavy spell to control the duel, right, in a grind game. But why was that? The whole idea of the deck was built around one monster. In 2019, in a format where a lot of decks were heavy monster reliable, right? So clearly the Sky Striker cards were trying to tell something. So what was that they were trying to tell us? They were telling us an homage to what actually Yu-Gi-Oh is. Yu-Gi-Oh is an intellectual challenge that is based on the grind game and little decisions that matters in the whole scheme of the duel. Now, why is that related to having just one monster on the field? Because to prove that there are things eternal in Yu-Gi-Oh, regardless of the intensity or the velocity of the game, there are things that always going to be eternal patterns in the game that you can identify. And one of the things is the reason why they use only one monster, because they are making, to prove this point, an homage to the first ever formats in Yu-Gi-Oh ever in the card game. And why I'm saying that, because in the first formats, if you risk your board to try to push for with 2 or 3 monsters, you are not playing around like cards like Darkhold, you are not playing around cards like Raigeki, which means that you're exposing yourself to exchanges that are making your opponent go +1 or 2 or 3, or maybe you going to -1 or 2, right? The same way that right in today's Yu-Gi-Oh, if you don't play around making the 5 summons, you are losing or you are not playing against the NIF, right? So you can see how there are eternal patterns Yu-Gi-Oh. Not summoning enough monsters on the field is something that's been a discussion in Yu-Gi-Oh forever, and especially a long time before Nibiru, okay? As you can see. Now, why this is related to the attack and the defense? Because at the moment I just proved kinda that the Sky Striker engine is an homage to the eternal patterns that Yu-Gi-Oh always will have as long as Yu-Gi-Oh is what's been since the beginning as a card game. An intellectual challenge that forces you to think and to grind in order to win the duels, to actually win and to actually be competitive. Now, how is this related to the 1500? As you can see, there are a lot of reference of the first format in Yu-Gi-Oh ever, right? The one-on-one trades with cards like Mystical Space Typhoon. Like you can see how cards of the whole engine are direct homage, like target one spell card on the field, destroy it. You can see how this is very related with the jamming waves. Like target one set spell, destroy it, right? You can see, for example, a very high competitive card at the beginning of the TCG format. Fissure, destroy one monster on the field. Is a very big reference. Is very, very referenced by the Afterburner. Try one face of monster on the field, destroy it. So you can see that the whole deck is focusing a lot in paying homage to the first formats ever. And that is why Raye has 1500 attack and 1500 defense, because of the monsters that were controlling and balancing the whole format for a lot of time ever since the beginning of Yu-Gi-Oh! Of course, we are talking about Sengen, and we are talking about the Witch of the Black Forest. Why? Because as you can see, Sangang was kind of these two cards were the consistency cards back in the day, because they were the same as, for example, Trust. Like, for example, Trust in today's terms, like Trust could be any spell in the game. Like, for example, a Trust can become a Raigeki, right? Like this analogy for obviously taking out the velocity and the intensity, because obviously this is a spell card, so you know, a heavier approach, right? But those are different times. The logic is the same. The Trust can get you to the Raigeki the same way that a Sangan can get you to Magician of Fate. And the Magician of Fate can get you to the Raigeki. You see? You see how this logic right here is still happening in today's Yu-Gi-Oh! Even in 2025, a lot of people, me included, have used the tactical trust to add the Raigeki. The same way that in 2002, people used these two to add the Magician of Fate because they wanted to have again the Raigeki. Now, so you can see that all Sangan and the Witch of the Black Forest both use the parameter of 1500 for either the attack in the case of Sangan and the defense in the case of the Witch. This is because when it comes to the first years of Yu-Gi-Oh!, the consensus that Konami was showing to all people in the way that they were printing cards and the states of that and the stats of those cards is that the promedium of a decent monster, in order to fulfill their approach of being an attack monster, destroying monsters of opponent by battle and making damages, will be the 1500. You can see this not only in the Sangan and the Witch of the Black Forest, but how these cards balance the whole game around them. For example, the very next set these two cards came out, the Mystic Tomato came out. And they use, again, the parameter of 1500. Not only them, you can see, for example, a lot of cards in that very next set. The Giant Rat also use the parameter. They literally use this same parameter for all the attributes in that set. Let's go again for another card, for example. Let's go with this card, Gemini Elf. This card, when it came to the TCG, was very expensive and it came out as a secret. Why do you think it is a secret rare? Because they, in purpose, make them lower than the parameter of the monster promedium for defense, so the Witch of the Black Forest can add it. Which is very funny because if you track the TCG history, you can see that the very next monster with the level 4 or lower without any kind of downside effect and just being a 1900 beta that TCG decided to print was this guy, Luster Dragon, and they printed as a lower rarity. It wasn't a secret rare as the Gemini Elf. But you can see that there's a big difference, right? The defense of the monster is just 100 defense more than the requirements of the Black Forest, which is enough of an argument for Konami to print it as a common or a rare. A big difference with the Gemini Elf, right? Which was a secret rare in times where the secret rare were even more valuable than today's. All of that because of the parameter that Konami already established between the 1500 attack and defense. You can see how big of a difference can make. You want to see another example? It's very simple. Why do you think Jinso has exactly 1500 defense? Do you think that's just for casuals? Do you think that's just random? It's because of how important this eternal parameter of Yu-Gi-Oh! Is. The 1500 attack and 1500 defense for monsters, for level 4 monster or lower, is something that's been happening in Yu-Gi-Oh! Forever. As you can see, with the Sangan and the Black Forest, and then the printing of the cards for the balancing of the impact of these cards. Like Jinso, like the difference in price with the Gemini Elf and the Dragon Luster that was printed later. You can see even the second level 4 19 without effect, without a downside effect that was printed. You can see, just to keep my point, you can see that also follows this pattern because it has exactly the 1500, with the difference that this card was printed so many years later that this factor that was worth secret card back 2004 for the year that this was printed was worth nothing. You can see how this logic still impacts in the game, right? And how the Sky Striker cards were trying to make an homage to this eternal parameter in Yu-Gi-Oh! Of the balance of 1500 attack and defense, which means that Sky Striker Raye is a synonymous of the perfect balance because it has exactly 1500 attack and 1500 defense. The same as the Lynx 1500 attack, the first one at least. As you can see, is all a big reference to how Yu-Gi-Oh has always been played, as an intellectual challenge, as a management of resources, and as mind games that the game allow you with their effects and their distribution of ratos and deck building and blah blah blah. Okay, so just wanted to show you how the stats of a card can communicate a lot, because here I was just talking about the stats, right? You can talk about the typing, the attribute, but I don't want to make the video any longer. I was just wanted to show you how these little things matter and how you can learn a lot just trying to investigate these little things. If you like it, or if you want me to investigate a card that you like in the same way that I did with the Raye, just let me know in the comments, leave a like, subscribe, share the video, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye bye.